The slave ship in the painting was en route to the New World, a world colonized by those who had fled the corruption of the church during the so-called Age of the Enlightenment so as to govern themselves free from the corruption of God's guidance. Instead, they would follow a new guidance and look towards the philosophy of man in accordance to a hidden plan. The Age of Enlightenment had cast a dark shadow over humanity when they turned their backs on divine guidance to rely solely on human reason. The old world source of ethics, which was derived from divine guidance, was now tossed aside, leaving right and wrong to be redefined by man. As a result, both white man and black man continue to engage in the commerce of chattel slavery in pursuit of self-interest with little to no regard for the rights of fellow man. Greed had come to replace God in this New World plan. The New World would now be governed under the theory of the Enlightenment thinker Adam Smith, who theorized that man's pursuit of self-interest, greed, would eventually bring about a productive and just society in time. However, they failed to see the injustices that they themselves were committing towards fellow man even at their time. So how then would they foresee the massive injustice to come within a greater span of time? The New World's New Order was man's attempt at fleeing from the corruption of God's guidance at the hands of mankind. However, God does not leave mankind without guidance, nor does he leave the corrupt to continue their corruption unchecked throughout time. During the development of the New World, God raised from amongst the people of the Nejd region of Arabia a reviver who called to the revival of God's guidance for all of mankind, Islam. Unfortunately, influenced by Enlightenment ideas of the time, the Islamic Empire, known as the Ottoman Empire, rejected the revival that was taking place on its borders and dismantled the newly formed land of Tawheed, proper God consciousness, in 1818. Only 100 years later, on November 11th at 11 a.m., at the end of the so-called War to End All Wars, World War I, the Ottoman Empire was brought to its knees after the disease of nationalism and revolt had plagued its lands. Had the Ottoman Empire embraced the call to the revival of Islam, it would have safeguarded itself from this dire end. It's important to note that as the Ottoman Empire fell, the world was struck with the Spanish flu, which primarily killed men of fighting age and threatened to take out all of humanity if it had not stopped, and therefore forced World War I to come to a stop. Some say the spiritual correlation between the Spanish flu and the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, the last empire of faith, was undeniable. So much so that it prompted the spiritual advisors overseeing the collapse of the empire to choose 11/11 at 11 a.m. in 1918 as the date and time to end the war. The alignment of the number 11 in consecutive order was of significant spiritual meaning to the aforementioned spiritual advisors. It is also important to note that the war that was to end all wars, in fact, ushered in an age of war, environmental destruction, and spiritual destruction, the likes of which the world had never witnessed before. Such are the lies of the devil to those who look to him for guidance. Checkmate.
And Satan will say when the matter has been concluded, "Indeed, Allah had promised you the promise of truth, and I promised you, but I betrayed you.